Ha, so bad. My wife's not here. Everything starts falling apart. Hey, y'all. Welcome to Water Break. It's great to be with you. Unfortunately, my wife is being a mom right now, doing mom duties, taking our track team, my daughter's track team, to their track event right now. She's actually right, and she's probably live streaming YouTube while I'm talking right now. So, love you, baby. Good work. If you guys want to be in a conversation with us, you can email us at RenchMedia@gmail.com. You can follow my wife on Instagram. That's the best place to follow her. Her website's AnnieWrench.com. Annie Wrench, that's RenchCom. And then, of course, you can follow me on Twitter. That's where I tweeted about the Pope today, saying that the Pope is not as important as everyone thinks the Pope is. But we'll see how that one goes. And I got a Business Makers. Go to businessmakers.network. I got a business summit coming up at the end of May in Battleground, Washington. If you guys are familiar with Battleground, Washington, it's kind of just outside of Vancouver, right there. Would love to see you guys at Business Makers Summit. Go to businessmakers.network for that. And lastly, we got some really good, we got information coming out about our conference, our Fight Laugh Feast conference in October. It'll be in Nashville. And details, sponsorship details. A lot of people have been asking about where all those details are at. It's coming. It's just in the website technology side of things that we're ironing out, and it should be there for you guys, hopefully by the end of this week, maybe beginning of next week. So stay tuned for our Fight Laugh Feast conference. It's School Wars. The title School Wars, How to Rebuild Christendom with Your Kids. Fantastic speakers already lined up, so hope to see you guys in Nashville in October. I am excited to have Joel Greene on the show, all to myself. You guys know we've already had Joel on the show twice. I knew about Joel a couple years ago when my wife got his first book, I believe, or started listening to his podcast, or I forgot how my wife started talking about Joel and some of the work that he'd been doing. But if you guys know me and you've listened to this podcast for the last year, you know I'm a huge skeptic of people in the health industry, like I am with politicians. I don't trust any politician, and I have a hard time trusting people in the health industry for multiple reasons, COVID, all the stuff. But as I've gotten to know Joel more, he's a solid believer. Our last show, we talked about evolution in Romans 1. It was just fantastic. So I really appreciate Joel. And Joel, thank you for coming on the show again to talk about gut health here. Yeah,
thanks for having me. I love you guys. So it'll be fun.
Well, thank you. For doing this your third time, and I think within 6 months, my wife just wanted to download with you so much. Every show, she's like, "This is not enough. I need a little more. I want to talk about gut health now," and so that's why we keep coming back to you. And so thank you for continuing to bear with us as we pull your brain.
Absolutely.
So we're going to talk about, and this is so my wife. She majored in phys ed. For those of you who listen to the show for a long time, my wife's very smart and into phys ed, exercise physiology, all the scientific side of things. And I'm just the husband who's coming along for the ride in a lot of ways. And so most of what I do, and Joel, you've probably already picked this up after a couple shows with us, I try to ask questions at the 5th grade level. So this is 5th grade level gut health with Gabe, Wrench, and Joel Greene. So we're going to talk about gut health. Now, Joel, you've written books on this. You've done all sorts of podcasts on this. You've done a lot on it. But what's funny to me, whenever when the concept of gut health got introduced to me, is through my wife, through my wife, downloading stuff that you'd been writing on. My view of gut health was like, okay, it's what you've put in your tummy. Maybe start here, Joel, and help us understand like what actually define what the gut is and all the organs that go with besides tummy. Define what gut health is, and maybe kind of give us the scientific picture of what gut means, the definition of what it means.
Well, first thing to understand is that there's two primary places where the outside world comes into your body, and so that's a good basis to begin to understand quote unquote gut health, because we have an immune system for a reason, and that's so things that get into the body don't cause harm to the body. And so the two principal ways stuff gets in us is through the mouth and through the lungs. Those are the two principal ways that foreign bad guys can get into the body. And so eating presents a pretty significant challenge to the body. So number one, eating has a primary purpose, which is we need to get the energy and nutrients that we need to live. That's the primary. Along with that is kind of this proposition where the things you eat can also potentially cause harm to the body. And so we need a way to effectively screen out the undesirables or anything that could cause harm, and then let in all the good things that give us life and energy and all that sort of stuff. So kind of the basic idea of gut health is that we have this belief everybody has sort of adopted in the last 30, 40 years that you have a genome and your genome dictates everything.
Okay.
And to that end, there's this notion that you go get these tests and these tests tell you, this is you, this is you. But it doesn't take very long to completely debunk that. You actually, all of us, have 3 separate genomes at work inside of us. So there's the human genome, then there's the mitochondrial genome, the little power plants inside every cell, and then there is the bacterial genome.
Okay.
And what's interesting is that when it comes to things that are critically important to living, specifically the immune system, and also screening things out, screening out pathogens, screening out toxins. The genome of the microbiome of the gut is much, much more robust than the human genome. In fact, you can make a fantastic argument that like humans have roughly 20, 25,000 genes.
Okay.
There's over 4 million genes available to us through the microbiome.
Okay.
And so it really spins this on its head, this notion of digestion, that we think digestion is this thing that is just dictated by genetics. But actually, you can think of digestion as something like an inventory of computer programs, where if you need a specific application, you go get the program for that. You need to do spreadsheets, you get that program. You need to do, virus checking, you get that program. And so think of genomics that way. So the microbiome makes available to us all of these different genes that can do things like detoxify bad things, keep them from getting in the body, allow us to digest things that we can't digest through the human genome. So for example, let's think the classic case of glutens. And there's a theory, and it turns out to be completely wrong. It's called the theory of lactase persistence. And it's this theory that says, oh, well, we used to have the ability to digest glutens and things like that. Or excuse me, I'm conflating gluten and lactose intolerance. Sorry about that.
Yeah.
Let's take the example of lactose intolerance.
Okay.
So we used to be able to digest that, but we lost those genes. They fell out of the human race. Well, the corollary to that is it was never really in the human genome to begin with. It was never the responsibility of the human genome to break this stuff down anyway. It's actually the bacterial genome has all the genes for that.
Okay.
And so the basic idea is acquisition. If you don't digest things like glutens well, or you don't digest lactose, or maybe it's you have issues with greens, you can acquire the bacteria that will break those things down. Yeah, will break those toxins down. Along with that,
so where people might identify that like is that I'm a lactard or I can't digest wheat. I'm allergic to wheat. They would maybe use the terminology like I'm allergic.
Well, yeah. And there's a lot of different ways of categorizing that. A lot of different ways of a lot of different types of nomenclature that you can apply to that. But the basic idea is that whatever you think you are, you're actually quite malleable. It's actually quite acquirable, and it really runs the gamut. So, example, eczema. There's a huge piece of that's a microbiome issue. If you acquire the right microbiome, the eczema issues are greatly improved. Histamine, you have problems with histamine. You acquire the right microbiome, and you have histamine degraders in the gut, and these bacteria degrade histamine, so your issues are greatly lessened. And you can go down the list. You can look at autism. We acquire these certain bacteria. Now, what's really interesting.
So real quick, autism. Are you saying there might be a connection between your microbiomes and autism?
100%.
And would you say it's curable? It's potentially or possibly curable?
Yeah, so the word curable takes us into this proposition of 0 to 100, and nothing ever works like that. You never get 100 out of anything. And so you have to always look at things in terms of degrees.
Mm-hmm.
So what is possible are degrees of improvement.
Yeah.
It's very difficult for any one thing. I used to do these very large corporate wellness engagements with literally thousands of people.
Yeah.
And the first thing I'd always say in my talks is there's no 100% solution.
Uh-huh.
Nothing. Not even my stuff. Nothing.
What would you say? Well, would you apply that to like cancer and some other things? Would you say there's no 100% solution there?
Yeah, I would say, that's an interesting topic.
Yeah. You
can do a lot more than you think you can do,
mm-hmm.
but also by that same token, cancer is very tricky.
Yeah.
And it defies simple explanations. A lot of people want to make cancer simple. It's not.
Yeah. Sure. What about like diabetes? I guess you're making me think. I mean, I think to me, you can be 100% curable, but maybe I'm just using the terminology a little looser than what you're trying to get at.
You have to keep in mind, like there's the notion of things going into remission and then coming back.
Yep.
And so,
yep.
I can only relate what I have seen.
Uh-huh.
And what I have seen are shocking, dramatic improvements in things you didn't think you could improve on. Like I used to be completely, anytime I had dairy, I would break out horribly with cystic acne.
Uh-huh.
Completely gone.
What did you do to make that completely gone?
Microbiome.
Okay. Yeah. And so, as we're talking about the gut as it applies to, so another question, then we'll kind of get back to what you're trying to get at. But like, I'm allergic to grass. I mowed the yard last night. I mowed the yard and I'm sneezing. I sometimes in the morning it's weird. I'll wake up, I'll eat an egg and start drinking my coffee, and I'll sneeze. I don't know what that's about, but my buddy, my Pastor Toby, he's on my show Cross Politic. He used to have allergies, like probably just like general allergies, nothing crazy. But he did his research. He researched it and said, a lot of this has to do with your gut. And so he just started eating better, and he doesn't take allergy pills anymore.
Well, so that leads into something pretty darn interesting. Generally, the thing about the way God made us is that the complexity is so mind-boggling mm-hmm. that there's always a point where you throw up your hands and you go, mm-hmm. wow, I mean, this is a creation. Mm-hmm. It just is. So with that being said, it's rare that you can get things to distill down to something very simple. That's kind of rare in biology.
Okay.
But this is a case where we can actually distill something down very simple. And it really is the human immune system. If you think about it, you get it from mom through breast milk. Okay. So what's in mom's breast milk? What's in mom's breast milk is all of these specialized types of carbohydrates, things like lactoferrin, all mm-hmm. kinds of very, very specific human milk oligosaccharides, all these specialized mm-hmm. glycans. But then you get bacteria also. Mm-hmm. And essentially what you get from mom is this starter kit for immunity. Huh. And it turns out that there's really one bacteria at the center of all of that for all humans. And it's the family of bifidobacteria. Okay. So bifidobacteria is a taxa, number of different species.
Okay.
And you get that from mom. And when you're a kid, 95% of your gut is bifidobacteria. Why? Because it sets the human immune system.
Okay.
And when you begin to look at very specific strains within that phyla of bifidobacteria, what you see is that literally they are co-equals or co-partners with human cells interacting back and forth to optimize various aspects of the human immune system.
Uh-huh.
Now, what happens is an interesting thing. Along with that, you get what are called cross-feeding reactions. And this is basically bifidobacteria produces metabolites. Mm-hmm. The metabolites it produces feed a lot of other things.
Okay.
And the one that's really important is another bacteria called Akkermansia.
Okay.
So my first book published in 2019 called The Immunity Code, it laid out a foundation for a simple way that you could optimize health. And that was by focusing on two key bacteria, bifidobacteria and Akkermansia, mm-hmm. because they set the human immune system. And when you optimize those bacteria, you have them in optimal and adequate amounts, things that are borderline miraculous happen. Like what you'll see is carbohydrate metabolism issues go away, issues with glutens go away, issues with allergies go away, which is probably what your friend experienced,
Mm-hmm.
and many other things happen. And the reason, and so this ties into the allergies that you've noticed and all these immune related issues, is
Mm-hmm.
that the immune system is a variable that it can work really well, it can work really poorly, or it can work too well. You can get an autoimmune issue. What these bacteria do when you have them, and you have them both in optimal amounts, is they kind of act like a governor on the human immune system. They make sure that it's optimal.
Yeah.
And so that's why you see issues like asthma tend to go away, allergies tend to go, all these different things tend to go away. And it's because the human immune system works in conjunction with very specific bacteria you get from mom to optimize things. That's why.
So, it seems like, I mean, I was born in 79. I never heard gut health or much about gut health until, probably honestly until you came along. Why is gut health like more foundational, or is it the foundation for health? Why is gut health so important?
Well, it's because the immune system acts as the top tier governor of human health.
Okay.
So if the immune system, just take the case of, either an autoimmune issue or numerous kinds of immune issues, MS, things like that. When the job of the immune system, again, is to let good things in, keep bad things out. And every day you have to let stuff in the body if you want to live. So food is at the top of the list. You have to eat every day. And anybody who's ever had a bout of like salmonella poisoning or, a lung infection or anything, you quickly realize that because you are locked into eating every day, like it or not, and breathing every day, like it or not, it makes the system that's in charge of making sure nothing dangerous gets in the top tier, the top of the food chain, the apex sort of mechanism. Again, it's very difficult in biology to
separate things out.
We always want to do reductionism. We always want to do reductionism. We always want to say, well, this one's the most important, and it's difficult to do that. But you can make a really good case that the reason gut health is so important is because it's so closely tied to the immune system.
Okay, that's helpful. And it's like because you use it every day. I might not run every day, but I eat every day. And so you're always putting food in.
Yeah, you just actually quoted something right out of my last book called The Way, which is that
that was an original statement though for me. Just right now. That was so original. No, I'm just kidding.
I'm just trying to find things that are common that we all run across. And what you find is that we're in this era where all these tantalizing health modalities are popping up, like, wear the glasses at night and touch grass with your feet and get sunscreen and, or get some sun exposure and all this stuff popping up.
Yeah.
And they're all vying for the most important thing. You'll find influencers out there, many of them overweight and fat, telling you the most important thing is to get a tan. Okay.
Yeah.
Get a tan solves everything. No, it doesn't. Absolutely doesn't.
Yeah.
But what the case I make in my most recent book is that the reason food is ultimately the most important thing is because it's the only thing you're guaranteed to do every day. I've done this a very long time, and these different little fads come and go.
Yeah.
Like nobody's hula hooping, now.
Yeah. Right.
Nobody's doing all these things that were racquetball. Nobody's doing racquetball. But you're guaranteed to eat the rest of your life every day. And that's why these daily inputs every single day, several times a day, will ultimately dictate your health for better or worse.
Yeah, that's helpful. So do Americans have, it seems to me like Americans have gut problems, and probably it's bigger than we think because they don't even might know that, oh, my problem's actually my gut. Why would, kind of a combo question here, how bad is our gut here in America and why?
It's worse than it's ever been. I've never seen it this bad. The most immediate reason was COVID. So COVID and the vax. So what COVID and the vax did was it wiped out the bacteria that we need for immunity, which is bifidobacteria. There's really good research on this now that shows that the COVID and the spike protein completely wipes out the key bacteria that you need to have an immune system.
Wow.
Which is bifidobacteria. So post-COVID, what you're seeing is people's guts are just wrecked, and there's all these related issues that they can't digest anything and all kinds of problems. And it's a very big reason for that, not the sole reason, but a very large one, is that the bacteria you got from mom, the one that set the rules for the immune system, is wiped out. That's a big reason. Another reason, there isn't one. It's a conflux of several reasons, which is the accumulation of antibiotics over the years, the accumulation of vaccines working together with antibiotics over the years, the food supply and things that are not optimal about the food supply. And all these things work together, and they work together in ways that are difficult to pin down. That's a big chunk of it.
So how do I get a bad gut? Like what am I doing to have a bad gut? What am I eating? What, especially here in America, like, how is it happening? I mean, God obviously called us to eat every day, and then we're also fighting gut health problems because of that.
So the first thing to understand is that the taxa in the gut are rapidly modifiable. Rapidly. Like you can recolonize the entire gut within just a few days. I mean, I've done it.
Yeah.
I've had literally tens of thousands of people do it.
Yeah.
It's very possible to completely change that whole thing out very fast. So that's true in a positive. It's also true in a negative. And so what at the most foundational level, what most people don't understand is, if you really think about how most of us do life, it's very common to kind of try and eat healthy during the week. And then on the weekends, Friday and Saturday night or Sunday afternoon, you're like, I eat clean during the week, so I'm going to kind of go off the reservation a little bit. Okay. What you don't understand, or not you personally, but I mean, what most of us don't understand is how quickly that modifies the microbiome in a negative way. So these weekend incursions that we don't pay too much attention to, we just think, I just went to the ball game and, I ate some fried Oreos or whatever, Well, what we don't understand is how rapidly the gut shifts in a negative direction. So that's a big deal. It's the guts. And if you think about it, it makes sense. These bacteria don't live very long. It's not like one guy is going to live 10 years. They have very short lifespans. And they need food. And depending on what you feed them, you can quickly change things over in a negative way. So that would be foundational. It's just dietary patterns.
Can you, is there a way to objectively, I'm always looking for like objective ways to measure things. Because, although you need to be in tune with your body and know, and your feelings do matter. I mean, like, I don't feel well, kind of thing, but is there a way to objectively test the gut and say, oh, you got these bad microbiomes in there, you got these good, that kind of thing?
The simplest and actually most accurate is to smell your poop.
The smell of your poop.
Yeah.
Okay.
The worse your poop smells, the worse your gut's going to be, basically. Like a really healthy gut, like super healthy, there's almost no smell.
Yeah. Right. But is there like a saliva test or something like that too?
There are lots of different kinds of microbiome tests, and they're getting better. But the caution that I would give anybody is they are not the gospel. They are not set in stone. There's a lot of flaws in those tests. One test that is kind of widespread, it's what's called a 16 RS ribosomal RNA test. And what it's doing is it's testing one gene. That's what it's looking at. And scientists believe that this gene is common to most, if not all, bacteria. And it just has slight variances in the gene based on the species. And so the way the test works is that they do a reverse polymerase, same thing they did in COVID. They amplify this genetic material. And then they take a database of known species of bacteria and just use a computer to measure it against the variances of this one gene. That presents a lot of problems. Number one, it doesn't tell you who's dead and who's alive.
Yeah.
It doesn't tell you that. You could have dead bacteria, so it doesn't necessarily represent things.
Right.
Another problem is if there are unknown species. For example, Akkermansia has several new species that have recently been discovered, and there's probably several more that we don't know about.
Yeah.
So it's not gonna. Well, a lot of people come back from taking those tests and go, "Oh, I have no Akkermansia." My answer to that usually is, "Yeah, you do. The tests just don't. The tests just
they're finding it." Yeah.
Yeah. So there's value in the tests. There's several different kinds. There's a GI map. There's all kinds of tests, but they're not 100%. And I use this analogy in my first book. It's a bit like the weather. So what the test comes back with is today's weather.
Right.
And usually by the time you get the test, you could change it.
It's 5 days old or whatever by the time you get tests or something.
Yeah.
So pretend I'm one of your clients. I come to you. I don't feel well. Where do you start with someone?
That is such a great question. The reason it's a great question is we are in this era that basically wants us to think that personalization is the answer to everything. And what I have found is that it's the meta things, the things we all share in common, that are 80% of the improvement. And then the personalization is 20%.
Okay.
But the big changes, the big shifts you're going to get have to do with things that are common to everybody. For example, optimizing levels of those two bacteria in the gut. Massive changes if you just do that one thing. Vitamin D levels, massive changes if you stack that on top of the first thing.
Yeah.
Sleep apnea, massive changes if you fix that and get you breathing during sleep. So the immunity code is that. The immunity code is 7 or 8 basic steps that fix massive things. And generally, in just stepping people through that, number one, you get them breathing during sleep.
Yeah.
Most people don't breathe very well during sleep. Get them breathing during sleep. Recolonize the gut. Get their vitamin D levels optimal. A few other things, and it's shocking the difference.
Wow.
Shocking.
Yeah. And so, I guess kind of related to this could be, do fat people have different guts? Do skinny people have different guts? What's going on there?
Yeah, they're shockingly different. They really are. Yeah. There are clear differences in, for example, obesity and lean people in the gut microbiome. And in fact, there have been experiments that showed when you recolonize the gut of obese subjects with the bacteria of lean subjects, the obese subjects get lean. Yeah. And you can go down the list and look at many different pathologies. There's clear differences in the young and the old in terms of there's an aged microbiome. And one of the ways, in fact, this was another aspect of the immunity code. One of the ways you can keep the body young is just take the young microbiome, the one you had when you were young, and load that now. You don't have to stick with the one everybody gets when they get old. So yeah, there's very clear differences in the microbiome, and it runs down the line of different pathologies.
And so, let's say you're working with someone who's overweight. Can getting the gut health better help them actually lose weight?
Yeah, that's the first. I have an approach. It's called the immune-centric approach.
Okay.
In the immune-centric approach, the very first step in doing fat loss is to first recolonize the gut. That's the very first step. So rather than trying to lose fat, which is what we all historically have done, instead, the first thing is to recolonize the gut towards the young profile. Because what you find when you dig into this rabbit hole is that very often people with weight issues have inflamed fat. They have inflammation, and in particular, they have inflammation in their body fat.
Okay.
It makes it very hard to lose weight when your body fat's inflamed. And one of the ways you can fix that is by fixing the gut. When you fix the gut, you can fix the inflammation in body fat. So yeah, that's the first step.
Okay. And if I got, my guts bother me, I need to do a reset, whatever that means. But, what do you do to help someone reset their gut?
So I have a gut reset that I pioneered. It was the very first one. There wasn't one until I did it.
Really?
And I think it's the best. And
Yeah.
it's very simple. It's the foundation of it is to use food to feed not you, but instead to feed the right bacteria in the gut, to give them what they need to live and what they need to grow. And over 20 days, what it looks like is you're taking in the skins of apples, and then you're combining those with the same things you got when you were a baby. So you're combining those with human milk oligosaccharides, and then I add in specialized types of what's called resistant starch. And these foods have been clinically demonstrated to increase those key bacteria by 200 and 300%. So in a very short period, you can recolonize the gut towards the optimal bacteria that promote health. It's very easy to do.
Explain to me the apple pill thing, because my wife's done that, and I'm like, she's pilling apples and eating the pill. I'm like, that's backwards. You pill the apple and I eat the apple. What's going on there? So
one of the key food sources for both of those key bacteria, Akkermansia and bifidobacteria, is the color pigments that are in red apples.
Okay.
And it's there's a whole bunch of big words when you dive into that. Yes, because they
remember fifth grade level.
So there's big words in there that describe these color pigments that these bacteria love to eat, and just it's as simple as just feeding. Whatever you feed grows, whatever you starve dies, and so you just feed them what they need, and they love apple skins.
That's the weirdest thing. And why not just like eat an apple?
Yeah, everybody always asks that.
Yeah.
First reason is just simply the ease of eating 4 to 5 apples versus skins from 4 to 5 apples.
Yeah.
Much easier to eat the skins of 4 to 5 apples than it is the whole apple.
Yeah. Okay, but if you ate the apple, it'd still probably contribute a little bit to some of that gut reset.
Yeah. Apples, the more you dig into apples, I mean, the old adage, an apple a day gets stronger and stronger. I mean, there's so many things in apples that would blow your mind. I mean, it's amazing.
And so we theologically reject that Eve took an apple from the tree because apples are so good for you. I don't know.
I'm sure they tried that one. For God, no, these are really good for us.
That's right. All right. So, and you have that gut recipe. It's in your immunity code book. Is that correct? Is that where that is?
Yeah, it's also free. You don't have to buy the book. I make it free now.
On your website?
Go there. There's a course. It's completely free. It's called the Basic 8. That was always a big goal of mine, was to make all that content free.
Repeat your website again so people know.
It's Veep Nutrition. V like Victor, E like Edward. There you go. VeepNutrition.com. Yeah.
My producer's a smart guy. Okay, that's helpful, and they could find that recipe and kind of walk through it. How often do you recommend like resetting your gut?
Usually twice a year, and then if you go on a round of antibiotics, or you have a really off weekend, or a cruise, for example, or you just kind of do whatever.
Yeah.
Then you can do a shorter version of it.
Yeah. I remember I was living in Colorado, and my boss down there, like every 6 months, he would fast for, I don't know, 3 days or whatever, a couple days. And he would make this concoction of like lemon juice, cayenne pepper. You probably know what I'm talking about. And that's kind of, I don't even know what he was doing there. But I've seen other people do this. So this is, to me, I've seen it. This kind of has been a common thing I've seen. What are your thoughts on that whole process?
Well,
because that's all he would drink. He'd fast, and then that's all he'd have is this, I don't know, cayenne pepper lemon juice thing.
Yeah. I would first give a caution. The caution is your body's not going to always respond the same to that. And what you tend to see over time, and time can be sometimes decades, is that things that work really well up front eventually don't work at all. Not only that, they become a problem. They become a liability. And I'm an example of that. Like, I cannot I could not fast a full day to save my life now, because I have so abused that in the past that by the time I got to the second day, I would have what's called full-blown hyperphagia, where like, I could eat 7 2,000 calorie meals in a row and I still would be hungry. Yeah, and it's because the brain has an adaptive response, a defensive mechanism against starvation.
Wow.
So you got to always keep in mind, like, the words that we are using program our minds a certain way.
Yeah.
So when you're using the word, my 3-day water fast, your body doesn't know that word. Your body just goes, oh, starvation. Yeah. No, we know this one. Here's what we do.
That's funny.
And the body has adaptive starvation defenses, and they are progressive over time. So they get better and better and better at defending against starvation.
Yeah.
Needless to say, those types of things can have a lot of benefit in the short term. They'll work really well up front. You can get some traction, and I think they can be very useful. I think that the caution becomes thinking that you did it once and okay, whenever I have a problem, I'll go back and do this. And the neurons in the brain adapt, and you're actually rewiring the brain as you do that to make you eat more long term. So don't do it too much is what I would say.
Yeah. In the secular world, if you don't feel well, or if you're depressed or something, they have a drug for that. Right. And then in the Christian world, if you don't feel well, if you're depressed, oftentimes, well, what is there sin in your life? And probably they're more right than the secular world is, Probably need to stop cheating on your wife or stealing from your employer or something. There's probably some sin in your life, and that's why you're depressed. But at the same time, Christians recognize that God made us heart, soul, and mind, and that we could not feel well because there's no sin, but there's, it's because our body doesn't feel well. There's something wrong. And so if you just fix, let's say in this conversation, you fix your gut health, what's the relationship between, let's say, gut health and mood? Does that question make sense?
Yeah. If you listen to a lot of influencers, it's sort of everything. Okay. I think it's really overblown. What I have noticed, and this is not just me, this is, and I have probably the world's biggest body of outcomes. And I had them years before everybody else. I've seen a lot of this.
What do you mean biggest body of outcomes?
I mean, more people have done my stuff for the gut than anybody else.
Okay.
And it's not even close. It's by a wide margin. Okay. And it was years before anybody knew about this stuff. So I'm just relaying what I have witnessed. That's all.
Okay.
So what you tend to see is that when your metabolism begins to really start to work well, the way it should, where, you're kind of getting back to that, I can eat anything and I don't gain weight, like when you were young. The act of getting lean, in and of itself, changes everything. Your energy goes up, your moods improve, everything improves, and it's because your metabolism is working better. Okay. So a lot of these reports about mood and the microbiome, yes, there are identifiable pathways between the gut and the brain that tell us, oh, well, this is going to improve serotonin because most serotonin's in the gut. This is going to improve this and that. I just haven't seen, where I've seen the dramatic shifts is more a result of weight than anything else. So when you start to lean up, that's when everything changes. If your energy skyrockets, and it's just because you're lean. You have to experience this yourself to fully see it. But anybody who's ever gotten really lean, they all say the same thing. Oh, my energy is just through the roof. My energy is because you're lean.
Right.
So lean people have tons of energy, and it's because your metabolism works, because insulin works. And when you get heavy, you feel sluggish, you feel depressed.
Yeah. One of the, I mentioned at the very beginning of the show that I just tend to have a distrust for the health and fitness world.
Me too.
And yeah.
I have good reason.
Yeah.
I know a lot of these people, and
Well, yeah. And so you personally know a lot of these people, but I've, the COVID thing really woke us up also, but my mom, my brother, he's number one, I'm number two, and I got two sisters below me. My brother was the only one that was in the hospital, and the rest of the kids were at home. So my mom kind of came out of the hippie movement. She was baptized in the cove with dad and everything. And so she was super suspicious of vaccines and, getting a vaccine when you're a baby, all that stuff.
I know too.
And I 100%. And when my wife married me, I have no scientific knowledge of this stuff. I just have instincts. That's all. And I got a little bit of my mom's suspicion. So I remember us having our children in the hospital. They're born the day of, and they want to start putting needles in them. And I was just like, I had no scientific argument for it. I just knew that's not right. And then COVID hits, and of course it just my inner instinct, or my mom's instinct that she passed down to me. I was like, I don't believe that. I don't trust that, all that stuff. But in the health and fitness world, there's a product for everything. Everyone's got a protein, everyone's got a vitamin D, everyone, and then in addition to there's a product for everything, there's obviously major marketing ramifications. You want to sell your product, you want to make money off it, so you got a product for everything kind of thing. How does what you're doing kind of line up in a way that's like, yeah, this is just basic, scientific knowledge, and I'm not trying to, push a product for product's sake. This is the reality. What probably will help you best. That question kind of makes sense. It's kind of, the health and fitness world is something like what, it's a billions and billions of dollars of industry. And so there's massive incentive to have a product for everything. How do you talk about this in relation to that problem?
Yeah, great question. So a little background. I grew up as a consumer in the 70s and 80s, which, by the way, you missed the Partridge Family. So I grew up as a consumer.
I got Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, so.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. You had all the cool 80s shows like
yeah, that's right.
I grew up as a consumer because my mom was just like yours. She was like she held me out of school when they were doing the vaxes, and she didn't trust. She taught me to be skeptical of authority, and that's just, so there's a lot of good to that.
Yeah.
And as a consumer, I would try everything growing up because I was in the health movement as a consumer, and I had so many bad outcomes from listening to experts.
Yeah.
Tell me like, okay, this is the answer. I had so many bad outcomes. So when I really went into this full time, which was 2006, I only had one goal. It wasn't to sell products. It was just to speak the truth. That's all I wanted to do. So I started this website, and the goal was to become the number one website on the web for health and weight loss. And I got to number 2. I only behind WebMD.
Yeah.
And I was just writing articles. Yeah. And the whole basis, you can go to the Wayback Machine and see it today.
Wow.
The whole basis was a longevity approach to fitness.
Yeah.
And I was just trying to be truthful and write truth because all of these marketers had taken over the space, and they were, writing about, Garcinia is the answer to weight and all this stuff. And I couldn't stand it because I'd spent my whole life doing this. I never really saw myself, doing what I'm doing now, because I didn't even think I'd be the person out front. I just wanted to write. And I quickly discovered nobody cared.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Basically all anybody wanted it was always the same question. Yeah, but that's great. I just want to lose 10 pounds. How do I do it?
Give me the medication to do it.
Yeah. Show me how to lose 10 pounds. That's what I want. So needless to say, where it's at today is, I don't make a product. There are very specific problems everybody's going to face. I've been through them, and you have to solve them.
Yeah.
It's like you have to run a gauntlet or a maze, and there's very specific junctures you're going to get to. Yeah. Whether you like it or not. Example. Everybody has to solve the problem of the declining cardiovascular system with age. Everybody. I don't care who you are. You got to solve it. How you going to solve it?
It's coming.
And there's several of these junctures. Everybody's got to solve the problem of the decline of energy with age. And how are you going to solve that problem? So needless to say, I could make any product I want. I could have a protein tomorrow, a pre-workout tomorrow. I can make anything I want tomorrow.
Yeah.
But I don't make a product unless it solves a problem. And to me, they're all part of one bigger problem.
Yeah.
Really, I think the thing, and you're going to hear this in the next few years bubble up. If you look at the supplement industry, I think I'm the only person who's not advocating daily. Like everybody's in this thing of daily. Here's your daily greens. Here's your daily, your daily longevity drink, your daily this, your daily that. Well, that's good for them. That's good for the marketer. That's not good for you.
Yeah.
That's not good for you. Like, there's very few things you should take. Nature doesn't let you take stuff daily.
Yeah.
Okay. If you were in a survival or an ancestral situation, you don't want to take the same thing daily. Nature has scarcity. So the system I've set up, you don't take. I've just tried to minimize maximum health into minimum number of lids to open.
Yeah.
By addressing very specific problems, which is the immune system, the cardiovascular system, the microbiome, and insulin function. Those four mechanisms.
What was that last word you broke up? The last one?
Insulin function.
Okay.
Yeah, and so to do that, there's a balance of things. You take one set of things 3 days a week, another set of things the other 3 days, and so you're not taking the same thing daily ever.
Yeah.
And I could make a ton more money. Just all I have to do is just say, take this daily.
Oh yeah.
Take it daily.
Yeah.
I can make 3 times the money I'm making by doing that, but that's not what I'm at. I've just been after the answer, the solution,
the truth. That's very helpful. Joel, man, I would would love to sit down and talk with you further. Really appreciate the 3 shows you've already done with us in the past, and today's the 3rd one. And sitting down with a Christian that I trust and all this stuff. Really appreciate your thoughts and everything. You're very honest and very helpful to me and my wife and everything. So thank you for your time. Again, veepnutrition.com. Is there anything new, any new book, anything new coming down the pipeline for you?
Yes. When does this come out?
This is live now. We're just live now. It's out. Okay. It's out right now.
Yeah, there is a final piece of the puzzle coming out next Friday.
Okay.
And it addresses every piece of social media I'm going to do between today and next Friday will address the problems that this addresses. So you'll see, but it's a big thing. It may be, in my opinion, the single most important human biomolecule. And you'll see. I'll make a prediction. After next Friday, you're going to see what I'm bringing into the market. Suddenly, everybody's going to be talking about it because they have to. They're going to have to talk about it because I'm going to open up problems that have not been solved that we all have to face. A missing part of the picture, and I'm just excited about it because it's it's taken me 20 years to put all this together into one thing.
Yeah,
and all of these things together now. I mean, it's what I do. It's what, I think I see a lot of benefit from it. So I'm excited. You'll see very shortly.
Is it a book? You can't announce it now?
Can't announce. Well, it's called Ultra.
Okay.
And that's all I can say right now.
Okay.
But it's something I've been trying to do for a very long time.
Okay.
And I couldn't make it work financially because it was so expensive to produce this. Like, this would have been. This should have been a $200 thing. And it's just through a very fortuitous set of circumstances, I've been able to get exactly what I wanted and make it affordable for everybody. So I'm stoked. Yeah,
Interesting.
And there was a point, I think maybe a year and a half ago, I went to my supplement manufacturer and I said, hey, let's track this down and figure out how to make it. And they came back to me with it. They're like, okay, we can make it. Here's the number. It's like, no one's going to pay that.
Yeah. Right.
No one's going to pay that. Right. So anyways,
very cool. Yeah. Well, so where could we follow that in the next week? Where's the best place to follow you on Twitter? What? Instagram and Twitter, Real Joel Greene. So I will break something here. I'm going to release a piece of social media today. Okay. Content piece. Okay. And it's going to be about the mitochondria. And I'm going to redefine what we think the mitochondria are. In fact, I'll break it on your show. Why don't we do this piece? Sure. Yeah. I got about 5 minutes and then we got to go. Yeah. I'll give you a 2-minute snippet of it. It's basically this. Perfect. We have been sold on a picture of the mitochondria that's just not accurate. And we've been sold this idea that they are this master organ that is the apex be all end all. Okay. Here's the reality. The mitochondria are part of a system. The analogy would be in a car, you have a starter motor and you have the propulsion motor. Okay, whether it's an EV or gas, doesn't matter, but you have different motors. And the thing is, the car doesn't work unless all the motors work together. Yeah. Okay. Like, if the starter motor doesn't work, the car doesn't go anywhere. This sounds like intelligent design. Well, yeah, it's kind of good. So
the missing picture is that the mitochondria are co-equals with another organ called peroxisomes. Okay. So the peroxisomes also produce energy. They do it from long chain fats. But here's the really important thing everybody's missed. With age, what happens is if you really look at the free radicals that do the most damage, it turns out you can make a very good case it's hydrogen peroxide. Hydrogen peroxide is what does the most damage to the body. And just look at your hair. If your hair is gray, it's because of hydrogen peroxide. The reason it becomes a problem is that the mitochondria take superoxide and from that produce hydrogen peroxide. And then hydrogen peroxide from there has to go into the peroxisomes. And then the peroxisomes will turn that into water. Okay. The mitochondria can do it as well, but the heavy lifting is done by the peroxisomes. Okay. So the end product is supposed to be water. What happens with age is the membrane on the peroxisome basically breaks. Yep. And then what happens is, think of it like drowning. The hydrogen peroxide content in the cell begins to drown everything out. Yep. And what it does is it destroys the mitochondrial membrane when it gets too high. So basically stopping that from happening, scavenging the excess hydrogen peroxide everybody's going to face this problem. Everybody's already facing it. If your hair is turning gray, you're facing this problem. And this is in conjunction with another problem that we have to solve, which is as we get old, iron deregulates. Yeah. And we have unbound iron everywhere in the body. Okay. It inflames the heck out of the body. The reason is iron can interact with hydrogen peroxide, and you have essentially this major free radical reaction. Yeah. And it gets out of control with age. Right. So everyone, 100% of the people listening to this are going to have this problem. Yeah. And we have to solve it. And the only way to solve it is to rethink how the mitochondria work, because they don't work by themselves. Okay. The peroxisomes are equally important, maybe more important in terms of the life of the mitochondria. Interesting. Okay. Solving this problem is a huge piece of the puzzle. Wow. And so I'll be talking about that today. And this leads into what I'm going to release, Ultra. Okay. Real Joel Greene on Instagram, Real Joel Greene on Twitter. Look forward to kind of hearing more about that, Joel, of course. Everybody who's following us, if you guys want to ask us any questions about this, you can email us at RenchMedia@gmail.com. That's RenchMedia@gmail.com. Make sure you follow Joel Greene with this new stuff coming out. It sounds very exciting, Joel. And I got to go. I want to ask you more questions, but I can't do it. I got to go. I got to get on. We got another thing happening here. But Joel, I'll be in touch. I actually would. I'm just going to do this live and make you. I would love to actually set up a call with you on some other things that I got going. So I'll send you my cell phone number through my assistant and everything. But thank you again so much. Three shows coming on. Everything got going. Really appreciate your perspective and what's going on. And Real Joel Greene, veepnutrition.com. Thank you again, Joel. All right. Take care. Everybody, if you want to be in a conversation, again, RenchMedia@gmail.com. My wife on Instagram @AnnieWrench, and then me on Twitter @GMWrench. GMWrench. We will be in the studio next week. We're actually going to be working on some other studio stuff and maybe start filming in a new spot with water break. So kind of fun. We're having some of those conversations trying to figure that out. Thank you guys for tuning in. Please leave a comment. Please subscribe on YouTube. Click the bell too. And on iTunes, if you leave a comment and rate us on iTunes, that really does help the algorithm and everything. So any way you can help us and share the show, we're very appreciative of. So again, Joel Greene's fantastic. Make sure you guys follow him and what he's doing. And we'll see you guys next week, this time with my wife. So